This is a Renegade Media Network podcast. You are now listening to the Counterflow Podcast, a place for dissonant voices and unapproved opinions.
You get split in fucking half, but I call him the hologram brass. But I am the center inside the placenta of math. You clash with cyanide gas and die fast. Rhythmical equivalent of solids, liquid and gas. We smash your sinus with the power of Lord Titus. But I am the virus inside of the iris of Cyrus.
Here is your host and humble narrator, Buck Johnson.
What's up, you guys? Welcome back once again to the Counterflow Podcast. Another episode here for your listening pleasure. And this one's a little bit different than most I've done in the past. And that's because it was recorded live in Sayulita, Mexico at the Sayulita Super Spreader that I was a part of December 10th through 13th down there, 2021. And we had an audience. I have my guests on this one, Clint Russell from Liberty Lockdown and Marc, Clair from the Lions of Liberty. And so just as you know, when you record these kind of things in a live setting, there might be some, I hope not distracting noises here and there, but I do have the best producer in the game, Mr. Chris Williams. So I'm pretty confident that all of that will be taken care of, and it should sound just pretty damn good for your listening pleasure. And so what a good time it was down in Sayulita. What an amazing weekend that was. So I've got Clint on with me, and some of the stuff he's super knowledgeable on include, well, the housing market, economic booms and bursts, and kind of the state of the economy as it stands right now. We get into some of that with him. He knows a lot about specifically the housing market. We're going to talk about that. And I think it's something that you should find enlightening. I hope you guys get something from it. And my friend Marc Clair, I don't want to get too much into the sordid details of his situation, but let's just say this. He's on unpaid leave from a job. How does that sound? Unpaid leave. It sounds kind of strange to me. And we get into why that is the case. You guys probably can get a good hint of why exactly that is. It has to do with mandates of things not all of us want. And so there's some good, passionate ranting by Marc in this. And you'll hear, I think you should be able to hear the studio audience. It wasn't even a studio, the live audience. They get very fired up, as Marc does as well. And I think you're going to enjoy this. I hope it kind of feels, you can get the vibe like you're down there with us in Sayulita, Mexico, enjoying the scenery, the background. It's just wonderful. I wish I had video. So for those of you that usually watch this on YouTube, I apologize. There is no video. But again, maybe make yourself a margarita, pour some wine or something like that. Sit back and enjoy this one. It's a really fun one. Live from the Sayulita Super Spreader with Clint Russell of Liberty Lockdown and Marc Clair of the Lions of Liberty. This is Counterflow Live. Let's get to it. My name is Buck Johnson. I'm the host of the Counterflow Podcast. This is Counterflow Live, south of the border in Mexico. Welcome. I've got Marc Clair from the Lions of Liberty as my guest.
Hola.
This is going to sound a little bit familiar, these two voices. And my friend Clint, my new friend, Clint Russell from Liberty Lockdown.
Konnichiwa. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So I should say at the top of this thing, there's been a lot of these Liberty events. We had one in Lockhart at my house through Thaddeus Russell. Some of you guys were at that. Tom Woods has his thing. There's just been a lot lately, it seems like, in kind of a time when we kind of all need events like this. And so I want to thank Johnny Profita, and we should all thank him from the Peddling Fiction Podcast, because as fun as this is, and sometimes you get lost and not realizing what we're doing, but this is a bunch of dissident voices. People don't want to hear generally a lot of stuff that we have to say. And now we're in a room full of a bunch of dissident weirdos, and we actually care what we have to say. And I think it also makes you feel, I'm not alone. So you're not alone. And thank you, Johnny, for putting this on. Next time, if you could get a nicer location.
Yeah, the view sucks.
Yeah, if we could get just a better view, man. Yeah, right. And ironically, now the view I have is you with that view. My goodness. Yes. Where do you get that chest hair at? I should just quit shaving mine. Anyway, so I've also got this thing where I can't figure out how to keep my phone from getting dark here. So I've got my notes.
Yeah, because this guy prepares for podcasts, unlike me.
Yeah. And if you ever prepare for Scott Horton on a podcast, you only need like 3 things to write down, not 20. It's wonderful. So we talked about, I've referenced right now that it's been crazy times and we're all here together. Both of you guys have unique stories. I say unique, maybe it's not, unfortunately, but your stories are both interesting because 2020 affected you. In fact, it spawned your podcast. You started your show, Liberty Lockdown, because of the lockdowns. And you told me yesterday, I wish I didn't have anything to say. I wish the world was so uninteresting that I didn't have an opinion on politics.
Right.
And you said they made me do it. Clint, can you, for these people that maybe are unfamiliar with your story, talk about what 2020 did to you, why you started your show, and we'll kind of jump off from there.
Sure. I was a mortgage broker, private money lender, so not evil Fed banker status. Don't hate me. I did that for about a decade, and then the lockdowns were announced, and I'm sitting on a couple $100 million worth of notes that my investors hold, and it's all collateralized by real estate. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, they're going to lock down the economy. That means that you're going to have a foreclosure and eviction crisis. So I immediately shut down my business. I didn't know at the time that they would be such brazen profligate spenders and print $7 trillion to paper over the crater that they created. So it bought us some time. And I was very fortunate because...
Let me stop you real quick. When you said they're going to lock down the economy, did you foresee this when they just said, hey, this is 2 weeks and we'll flatten all this stuff? Did you already think, all right, they're not just going to do 2 weeks? Or did it take you a month or something into it?
Yeah, I closed my business about 6 weeks after lockdown started. So the 2 weeks, I was like, this is a terrible fucking idea and completely un-American. And I can't believe that we're even considering this, but we'll see. We'll see if the 2 weeks, because I thought that the American people would rise up very quickly beyond the 2 weeks to say, you said 2 weeks. Well, what are you doing? They didn't do that. So once we got to about 6 weeks, I realized that the fear mongering was working. People were just unbelievably afraid. And then I became afraid for a completely different reason, is that oftentimes when people are afraid, they behave in irrational ways and they miss the forest for the trees. It's like you're concerned about saving lives, and yet you're going to stop the most powerful economic system that's ever existed. Like, not a good idea. If you're interested in saving lives, you don't do that. So I shut down my business. I started screaming into a microphone about it, and it just caught fire. So that's my origin story. And then I moved from California to Florida. So.
Why?
Why? Why did I leave California?
I heard that both parties are the same. Is Florida somehow better than California?
Don't make me do this. Obviously, I think in the near term, when you have a really dangerous federal government, it's important to find a local state government that will defend you. So regardless of my other differences of opinion with DeSantis, I think that he's been the best, most outspoken against the insanity that we've been experiencing.
And one of his attributes, I think, is so interesting. And I learned this from when Tom Woods had on, I think it was Jay Bhattacharya, the doctor from, what is that organization called? Help me, I can't remember. It's the other one, the Barrington Declaration guys. And it wasn't just DeSantis going, I'm going to be a rebel because I'm a Republican and Biden now is a Democrat. I mean, this actually happened under Trump too, of course. He wasn't bucking the system to buck it. The guy did the actual research and met with the frontline doctors and the Barrington Declaration doctors. And Tom said something to Dr. Jay Bhattacharya along the lines of, man, I bet you Governor DeSantis could really win a debate on this stuff if he debated other governors. And the doctor said he could win a debate with most immunologists. He said I've never seen a politician this smart. So I thought that was interesting. Marc, as most of these people know at this point, your story really is interesting. You left, we can say Florida and California are two different countries because in effect they are, but you left the country of the United States. You're here in Mexico. And much like Clint's thing with the podcast catching fire, 2020 ended up kind of having some silver linings. Boy, did it have some silver linings for you. Talk about this.
Fuck yeah, brother. I'm in Mexico. What more of a silver lining can you get? But, for me, it was something that I experienced in a very real way because my industry was very much shut down in Los Angeles. I worked in the TV industry. And in 2019, it was funny because my wife, who's currently passed out from a few too many early afternoon drinks, we were seeing each other at the time. And we were kind of like, she had a lot of work here in Mexico. I had a lot of work in the US. And we were coming up on April of 2020 because it was like the month where we just didn't see, how are we going to spend time with each other? We don't even have, you've got too many projects. I've got And then suddenly we had all the fucking time in the world because all of our work was shut down. I was furloughed from my job. All of her work went away immediately. And we got to spend like 3 or 4 months. This is last year here in Mexico in a very small town called Xochitepec, where I was quite literally the only gringo. And I lost 30 pounds. I felt better than I've ever felt in my life.
What kind of exercise were you getting in that short time?
Well, we had a pool, which you basically have to have in a town like that where it's 100 degrees all year round. And everyone has a pool. So that was also like, I want to live in a place where everyone has a pool. Even the poorest motherfucker, has a fucking pool because it's a basic necessity of life. No, I didn't do anything that crazy. I did a little yoga. My wife's big into yoga. So I started getting into that. But it was more, I think, a lifestyle and a lifestyle change and a change in my body and my fucking soul, because before I was just grinding away at the TV factory every day. And I liked my job and I would go in and work. But I don't think I got to realize what it was doing to me until I was able to get far away from it, until I was able to see, oh, here's what not working crazy fucking hours feels like. Here's what letting my body rest and heal feels like. Here's what swimming every day feels like, and eating fresh food, not the fucking shit from Costco or whatever. All respect to Costco. I love Costco, and their pizza and hot dogs are fantastic. But maybe not the best way to live your life, And this is a town where we're eating fresh food, fresh meat. Everything's fresh. Everything's real. It's not. We had zero supply chain issues. The supply chain is the fucking guy that has the farm down the street, and that really opened my eyes to everything and to just seeing that maybe even though I have a good salary on paper and my life is great on paper, it wasn't satisfying to me. Being in this small town, making no money and doing hardly anything was much more satisfying to me. So now I'm much closer to that life. But fast forward a year or so later, I won't get too deep into the details, but I did leave my job in Los Angeles and my life in Los Angeles for several reasons. Some of them may be mandate related, but let's just say I'm not there. And it was something I was already on my mental way out of. But as things can often happen, to me, like sometimes life and the universe has to push you in a certain direction that you already wanted to go, or that you already felt you should go, because you can be really comfortable where you are. And I was talking to my friend Michael Bolton of the 10th Amendment Center the other week when I was in Los Angeles. Great dude.
I got it.
Yeah,
that name you just dropped.
You got a Michael Bolton audio drop over there?
That was a joke. That's my stand-up.
And he used, he didn't invent this phrase, but he was saying, yeah, you had the golden handcuffs, man. Like the golden handcuffs where I had amazing insurance, amazing salary, and it was the worst possible thing for me. And I might not have gotten out of that if there weren't certain things pushing me out of that, even though I really knew it was the way I should go. So to me, it's more than a silver lining. Like I'm not going to say I'm happy that COVIDs and lockdowns and all these things happen, but it certainly pushed me to take actions that I knew I should take, but I didn't necessarily let myself take because I was so comfortable. I have this insurance, I have this job, I have this salary, everything's fine. So things not becoming not so fine can often be the best thing that happens to you. So I see a lot of these silver linings in this movement, in the people that we're connecting with now. I mean, people like Clint that are here because specifically of what has happened. And it's creating new connections. There's a parallel economy being created by people that are not submitting to mandates, that people are not going to do things that way. It's enabled by cryptocurrency, by people like Tobias and his fucking whatever the fuck it is. What is yours? Lotus, yes. Like the flower. Lotus like the flower. The point is there's a lot of parallel economies forming, and I think, I don't know if you want to call it events or circumstances like we're going through now can push things in a better direction, whereas otherwise people might have stayed a little more complacent. So for me, that's what it's done for me. So I'm not happy about the things that have happened, but in a weird way, I'm grateful for them too, because they put me where I am now.
People like Clint and myself have this, I hate using lefty terms like privilege, but in a way we do, because we can be against the vax mandates, but we didn't face it head on and go, here's my decision, I'm not doing it. And you did. And I want to say I feel bad that you had to go through that, but again, this has made you, see some things that you might not have seen otherwise, but that's a big decision. And
it didn't even feel like one though.
There's
never felt like a decision to me for 1 second.
And there's going to be people listening to this. It will be released as a podcast. So beyond even just the people here, just for a second, there's going to be people listening right now to this that are thinking, I have this decision coming. I don't know what to do. I'm stressed. Yes, I've got these principles, but yes, I've got these bills. I think it's really admirable what you did. Can you just kind of speak to those people that are like, shit, this decision's coming and it will happen. What do I do?
Well, I'm not going to sit here acting like it's easy. It's not easy. Everyone's in a different situation. Everyone has different things to worry about. But frankly, I was in one of the most difficult situations you can be in. I was in the middle of getting a green card for my wife. So you need an income to show. And we're doing the same thing for my stepson now. So yeah, I have all the reasons in the world to say, yes, I should just comply to get by, And I'm not going to tell anyone that it's easy, but I am going to say, stop being a pussy and stand up for yourself. This is your fucking body. This is your fucking soul. So yes, it might be very uncomfortable to say no. It might put yourself in a situation you didn't feel like being in. And maybe you want to take it. I don't care. I mean, maybe that's fine. Even if you want to take it, you're still submitting your fucking soul to the goddamn devil if you tell them that you took it. So if that is your decision, then fine. But I'm going to tell you that even when you don't have things figured out, which I didn't have anything figured out. I was scared as shit. But I knew I never had to question it because I know where I am and I know no one's going to tell me what to put in my fucking body. So it's really easy when you have that kind of resolve to say no. So I can't tell you how to find that resolve in your life. I can't tell you how to find that spirit inside you that says, no, I control my body and you don't. But fucking find that shit. And fucking go with it.
Yes.
Because you will figure it out and life is okay. And you have people, many of them are right here that will help you, that will talk to you, that will help you find work, help you figure things out. That's what this is all about. That's why we do events like this. That's why we communitize, if that's a verb. That's why we meet with each other because we're all here to fucking help each other voluntarily.
Yes. My goodness. Give this man a hand. I feel
6 hours of drinking before the show helps.
Yeah. And real quick, I want to touch on something. You kind of touched upon it with Anthony. I was out with Megan Murphy last night, and she has now relocated from Canada to here. And she said the cartel runs this town. And she goes,
and that's not a bad thing.
It's so much better than Justin Trudeau's reign in Canada. And I could, it makes sense even on the surface. And I was like, wow, go into that a little bit. And she basically just said, it's the devil you know versus the devil you don't. And they'd rather put up with cartel actors, I suppose, if something shit hits the fan, than like bureaucracy. And that's crazy to think of it in those terms, but it is legitimate in that sense. Talk about that really quick, the difference you've noticed from Los Angeles with the bureaucratic state running things versus here with the cartel.
Well, I haven't necessarily encountered the cartels per se.
Well, you've only got 9 fingers. No.
That's unrelated. That was just a weird night last night. No, I mean, the thing about Mexico is that, yes, there are many laws on the books that aren't the best things in the world, et cetera, but generally speaking, and I will say this has changed a little bit with the COVID stuff as it has everywhere. Generally speaking, much of the population is extremely skeptical of authority and government. And I say this as someone who lives in Mexico City where everyone wears masks, so this is not universal. But there is sort of a presumption that the government is corrupt, a presumption that this system is all rigged. And we all kind of know that and operate upon that understanding. Whereas I feel like in the US, there is still a majority presumption that this is legitimate, that these are just nice guys. Maybe sometimes they goof their way into lockdowns, but that we trust the government. And that is just an underlying thing here that you get to understand from just talking to people and that sort of thing. Now it is different with the COVID stuff though, even with that, because I live in Mexico City right now and we're thinking of living somewhere else, but we're there for reasons of convenience for the moment. But I mean, that place is worse than Los Angeles when it comes to mass compliance. And I say compliance, but there's no law, there's no rule, which is what makes it a little bit scarier. That everyone just wears masks everywhere they go because they think they're supposed to or they think they should. And it's hard for me to break down exactly why, because I don't know exactly why. I think a little bit of it is anti-AMLO sentiment. AMLO is the president of Mexico. He's a socialist, and he's the most base motherfucker on COVID on this goddamn planet besides maybe Ron DeSantis. He regularly, from the beginning, he said, don't wear a mask, they're stupid. He said he's had speeches where he said that vaccines are just a scam from these pharmaceutical companies. But he is very much like the Donald Trump of Mexico. So many people, especially in maybe major metropolitan areas like in Mexico City, they will reject what he says because he's a big idiot. Yeah. So maybe it's partially a rejection of AMLO, that sort of thing, much as like a lot of it was a rejection of Trump.
a socialist.
Yeah.
Like,
I would rather have a biggest socialist that doesn't want to force the vaccine in my body and has some wacky doodle economic ideas than some conservative that does.
remember when the left was like against big
Got an
pharma?
applause from James Guzman, everybody. That's big time.
Imagine that, a leftist that's against big pharma. They do exist still. They did like just 5 years ago. It's
That
funny.
used to be the default.
Yeah, that was correct. The best part about having PalomaVerdeCBD.com as a sponsor is not even that the products are amazing, because they are. That's not even the best part. It's once you order these products and use them over and over, you know, because I'm telling you, that you're supporting a truly good couple, the people behind PalomaVerdeCBD.com, Carlos and Vanessa out of San Antonio. Very wonderful people, hardworking, and very much like-minded. And they're providing you these wonderful products, the mint CBD tinctures. Check this out, the sleep bundle. I know sometimes some of you have issues sleeping. It's very common these days. You won't once you buy their sleep bundle. They've got the CBD gummies, of course. They've got soft gels, salve sticks. I've ranted and raved many times about the cool menthol sports cream. Those of you guys and ladies that work out and lift and you get a little sore, I'm telling you, this is the absolute best sports cream I've ever used. And you've heard it many times, but I can't brag enough on their pet products, the CBD dog chews and the pet CBD tinctures. Both of my French bulldogs, George and Lux, both use these products. They may not know they use them, but I can tell you, Lux is the old one. He used to kind of waddle around like a little old man French bulldog. I put the CBD tinctures on his food every morning, and now he can actually keep up with his younger brother George, who darts around the yard and chases squirrels. But I put these CBD dog chews and the pet tinctures in their food every morning and every evening. You will not be sorry if you give these guys business. Help out your sleep, your muscles, your anxiety. They've got stuff for that, of course, and your pets. Everything here is wonderful and good, as are the people behind the business. And of course, since they support this show and you listen to this show, you get 25% off your entire order when you type in promo code BUCK. That's me, of course, BUCK, B-U-C-K, at checkout. Get you 25% off of your order when you go over to PalomaVerdeCBD.com. Please give these great people some business. You will not be sorry. And you're helping out the Counterflow podcast. You're helping us keep the lights on, as they say. That's PalomaVerdeCBD.com, promo code BUCK. Get you 25% off. Let's get back to the show. Clint, some of the stuff that you're really well versed in are things that at least myself and maybe some other people here are not. That would be the housing market, the bubble that happened the first time, where we're headed now. Can you talk to my audience about that kind of stuff? Where we're at, what should we expect? What do you see coming with, where's the crash? Where's the bubble at here?
Yeah. I mean, this is a very, very complicated, in-depth topic that I could talk about for hours. But, well, let me start by saying, obviously, I closed my mortgage company because I thought that the bubble pop was imminent. I did not expect them to do what they did to paper it over, so that bought us some time. And you can look at that as a positive or a negative. If you're in the position where it gives you the opportunity to liquidate your holdings, it's a positive. If you're the type that's out and buying as many houses as you can right now, banking on it being a hyperinflationary moment, you're taking a tremendous risk. I think you might be right, but I would bet against you personally. I think that a deflationary collapse is more likely. I think that watching interest rates, especially 10-year treasuries, 30-year mortgage rates, that'll be the sign. So as long as you are paying attention to that, you should have an opportunity. If you see interest rates rise at all, I would get the fuck out, like, instantly. So that's kind of the guidance I've been giving my listeners. I could go into Evergrande, which Robbie the Fire tweeted out, wanting to know who knows about it. That son of a bitch. I can't believe he didn't think of me. But anyways, talk about Evergrande is the
Line on the 10-year, like a threshold that you're looking at.
No. If it rises like a half a point, even I would be like, go.
Yeah.
So and that's not a lot. So Evergrande was the largest construction lender in China. It just defaulted on its debt. They're worth, I think, $400 billion. It could be the Lehman Brothers, Merrill Lynch moment of the 2008 real estate collapse. I'm not sure yet. I think it will be that for China, depending on if they respond. And I mean, this is the problem. The documentation in China is so obfuscated. Like it's going to require a leap of faith. Like I don't know what they're actually doing to address that issue. If they paper it over under the covers, then perhaps it'll buy them some more time. But everyone knows about the Potemkin villages that exist in China, these tens of thousands of condo units and things like that aren't occupied. They've been doing this. They've been doing what America did in 2005 through 2007. They've been doing that for 20 plus years. So their bubble is bigger than ours. However, because we live in an interconnected global economy and our debt system is all tied together, they go down, we probably pay a price too. However, if they go down before us, that could strengthen the dollar, give us a deflationary collapse here. It's very, very complicated. Anyways, point being, my thesis is you got to be extremely cautious with investing right now. People are, no disrespect to the NFT scene, but to me, that's a sign of there being way too much capital in the system when people are paying, millions and millions of dollars for artwork. And that's how it usually works. When you see a bubble, and it's not even the electronic nature of it that concerns me, collectibles, anything is skyrocketing in value right now. And that is also a product. That's also something you see during hyperinflationary periods. But it's important that people remember that in Weimar Germany, even when there was hyperinflation, there was still a massive deflationary moment in that 3 to 4 year period. I think we will see that before we actually see the death of the US dollar because it is the global reserve currency, like it or not.
You moved out of California. A lot of people are doing that. I spoke to a friend of mine who had a gym that they just opened, a CrossFit gym or something in Southern California. They left to Arizona. There was not one available U-Haul in the entire state to rent. Crazy. Why are the prices for houses there so? And you would think, like old school economics, while everyone's leaving the house, pricing of houses will drop. It's not. Why is that?
I mean, obviously it's complicated again, but you're right. This is the first time in my lifetime, I think, that there has been net negative outflow population from California. So it would make sense that you would see real estate prices come down and that there wouldn't be such a shortage. As a developer, I'm building 6 houses in California right now, and that'll be the last time I invest in real estate in my life, or until the crash for sure. So I'll tell you, the reason that there's such a tremendous shortage of housing in California is because the government is a fucking disaster. And it took me over 3 years to take a flat parcel, divide it into 6 parcels to build up these houses. 3 years. And immense amounts of money. I mean, huge. And this was like the last infill piece of property in National City. Should have been a fucking slam dunk. Should have been easy. I thought I'd be in and out in a year. 3 years deep. And I'm just going vertical now. So that's really the reason, is that there has been so much pent-up demand, and the millennial generation has been waiting for their opportunity to get their foot on the economic rung. And now, because interest rates are so low, they look around and they say, well, I finally got a good job and I can finally qualify for a bank loan. And the interest rates are so low and I can afford the monthly payment and rent is so fucking high, I'm just going to do it. And this is what happened in 06, 07. Every young person that could get a loan did. You were able to lie on loans a lot easier back then, so it was even more egregious. But interest rates were triple what they are now in the 05 range. So, things are crazy. Things are crazy.
So you started your podcast because of the lockdown. I haven't asked you this before. Were you political prior to that? Were you a libertarian? Like, how did that part happen leading up to you starting a podcast? Where was your kind of change there? Because everyone has these coming to Jesus moments or coming to Ron Paul moments. What was yours?
Yeah, I'm a weirdo in that I was a second-gen libertarian. My dad found Rothbard in the 1970s before I was born. So even though I wasn't raised by my dad, I would spend 1 week in a month with him on this long car trip, and he would indoctrinate my little 4 or 5 year old self on the glory of the founders and the Constitution and things like that. So that, the entrepreneurial spirit, all of that was built into me very, very young. But as far as why I was quiet is because first off, I didn't feel like I had any power. So I was just interested in benefiting myself and my family's life and trying to create as much as possible as an entrepreneur. When the government finally decided to set its sights on me, as opposed to, crack addicts or someone who's been targeted in the past, I was like, well, they're not targeting me yet. Then they targeted me, and I was like, okay, now it's fucking personal. I was able to operate and succeed in your fucked up system basically my entire life. And then you decided no more. Like, you're not allowed to do your business. And I was like, okay, well, now you're my enemy and you've declared it overtly. and I will respond in kind, and I'm going to marshal the troops. Like, that's how I viewed it. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but that's why I didn't talk about it prior, because I was like, well, I can still survive. I can still make a living and find joy in this life. And then they took it from me. So I was like, I'm going to fucking destroy you people.
Yes. Yes. They drew first blood. It wasn't me.
Exactly. Yeah. I didn't violate the NAP. They did.
Yeah. Fair enough. And so, yeah. Now, are you a post-libertarian? No. Marc, so you've come out with some different positions. I don't even know if I want to quantify it as that. You've been more
backtrack on your setup.
You've been more vocal about certain things. Again, we referenced earlier, you called yourself the Watcher. A lot of these people will be familiar that you've moderated a lot of debates between kind of loser brigade guys and guys that we see more eye to eye with. I would say in the last 6 months, let's give that timeline. How have your views on politics changed, if they have?
I think the biggest thing is that when I first got involved in the Libertarian Party stuff was around 2015, 2016. And it only started as a result of the podcast. Like, I really didn't know anything about the party or care or think about it. But people started reaching out to me and saying, like, hey, I'm running for this office. They seemed like nice people, so I'd invite them on to say their thing. And then eventually that led to me hosting sort of inter-Libertarian Party debates, like debates for presidential candidates, vice presidential candidates. It just kind of happened to me. I didn't really even try to do it. Just sort of occurred. But that did lead me to like becoming friends with a lot of people in the party and really enjoying going to those events, going to Libertarian Party conventions, going out on Bourbon Street, having a blast with these people and getting to know them and really seeing that these are not just abstract ideas held by, NPCs out there. These are real human beings that I got to know. And that's what got me involved in the party, was really the people that were involved in it. But I think the whole time I always knew in my mind that this was, I don't want to say not serious, because I was always serious about the beliefs, but in terms of specifically the Libertarian Party involvement, I never had an idea that these people I was talking to were going to be elected to the positions they were running for. Why? Because they came on my show and said, I know I'm not going to win this election. So it's not me putting it there. That's what they said. And we all just kind of agreed this is a thing we're doing to spread a message, to meet like-minded people, which I'm all about. And I see no problem with that. But I think the last couple of years, what had changed for me is it's hard for me to look at politics now as just a thing where I go to hang out with people to have fun. I'm doing that here outside of a party, so I don't need that for that. It can be a way to do that for sure. So to the extent that operates as that for people, I think it's perfectly wonderful. But I think what I've seen, and I'm a part of it because I was a big part of recruiting people for the Mises Caucus and that movement to take over the Libertarian Party. And shit, if there's going to be a Libertarian Party, I'd rather have Dave Smith, the leader of it. I'd rather have those people putting out real libertarian ideas. So I don't want to say that isn't what they should do, because if that's what they're going to do, I'd rather it be them. But my concern is I don't know what that does outside of maybe spreading the message a little bit. And that's not a bad thing, spreading the message a little bit. Other people in whatever you might call the post-libertarian whatever thing, some of them would say it is. I don't agree with them. But I just don't know how much that matters in this. I think it's a time preference issue at this point. It's not, I don't think we have a grand 100-year project here, guys. And maybe it's partially colored by my personal experiences. My personal experiences living in Los Angeles, seeing how mandates are affecting people, seeing restaurants shut down that are never fucking coming back. Favorite restaurants of mine that are just never coming back because they couldn't withstand this shit. Seeing everybody, basically everybody I knew, most of which, because in the TV industry and the film industry, most people aren't full-time workers, they're part-time workers. And when they stop working, they stop fucking working and they stop making money. And I saw that people going through that for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 fucking months. So I've seen how fucking real this is. And to me, it's a hard position for me because I never intended to start even talking about this stuff. It just kind of came up when I was on a podcast with Pete Quinones, and then Dave followed up with me about it. And it was never an intention of mine to really talk too much about, because I love these guys. They're all my friends. They're people I literally have become very good friends with and know. But I think my personal experience has jaded me a little bit in the sense of, I just think if you're putting your time into something and you're also saying, I don't know how I'm going to feed my family if I get a vaccine mandate next week. Yes, I do think you should prioritize your fucking time differently. I don't think you should spend time spreading a message if you can't feed your family next week. That's me. And maybe I say that because I went through that exact fucking scenario. And I prioritize myself first. And I think that's something that Anthony hit on really earlier. Like the best way to resist is to fix yourself and to get yourself in the best situation. Because if you're as independent as you can be, if you put yourself and your family in the best situation you can be in, then you have sort of immunized yourself in your own way. And that's really all I'm trying to say when I talk about this stuff. I want people to prioritize that first. And I think I've probably come across too harsh sometimes talking about this stuff because I don't mean to tear anybody down. And maybe my attitude and my jadedness can contribute to coming across that way. Because when I talk to my Ron Paul people, my Liberty people, like I see you all as brothers, I see you all as my family. So if I see you going off the cliff and I say put on the brakes, I'm not mad at you. I just don't want you to go off the cliff. And I think I probably come across in a way I don't intend a lot of times when I talk about this stuff. So I'm trying to reevaluate that a little bit. But at the same time, I don't want to baby anybody. And I don't want to act like this is fucking fine. I don't want to act like that meme with the dog in the kitchen with the fire saying, wagging his fucking tail, like everything's great. No, there's some serious shit going on. And politics can't be a fucking hobby anymore. You have to realize this is your life. This is your body. This is your fucking soul. So take actions that benefit that and don't take actions that don't.
Heck yeah.
Wow. Well put, this guy. We got a few more minutes here, and this is kind of off the cuff, and it just popped in my mind, and this is how I've done other live things in the past. So we can have a Q&A really quick. So raise your hand or whatever, we'll call on you. If you've got a question for Marc, myself, or Clint, or just generally that maybe one of us, we can put our brain cells together and form a thought, raise your hand and we'll get to it. Yes, sir, Chris.
Marc, I know a lot of actors, and I am amazed that the actors are so bought into this. And I'm talking about the actors who do local plays, not the actors that are famous or anything. Why would actors be so into this? I mean, you think they reject it, but they're not rejecting it.
They professionally read scripts.
Real quick for the people listening on the podcast version of this, the question is generally, why are so many actors bought into this narrative, and why, we all know why are they like the way they are with this whole shit that we've been going through? Marc?
Well, Clint had the best one-liner answer. They professionally read scripts. What more do you need to know? But I think it is, it's very much a cultural mentality. And I think it's not even an active thought. And I'm saying this based on actors in Los Angeles or people people I generally know in the TV industry. And this applies to everything. It applies to us. We're all human. There's groupthink is a thing. And when people around you all think the same way, it's very hard to just not naturally think the same way, even without doing that. And I think, again, this is me coming from Los Angeles, and that's kind of bent of actors and stuff. So they're ultra, ultra progressive, ultra woke. But when you're around people and then the ideas are around you and everyone agrees with the ideas and they reinforce it, you really have to be a fucking maverick to even say something remotely outside of the box. And if you're trying to build a career and trying to become part of this community, because that's part of your career, it's really hard to speak out. Even if I bet a lot of these people kind of have these thoughts in their mind, they're not going to fucking say anything because you're ending your dream. Your dream is to be an actor. So how are you going to say things that are going to end that part of it? And that is why this stuff is so hard for people. I get it. I lived within it and I totally understand it, but you should still stand up for yourself.
Yes, we'll put...
Let me also say, let me add to Marc's point on that. When it comes to deciding whether or not you're going to cave to the vaccine mandates with your employer, I realize that I come from, in woke terminology, a position of privilege. I will say this though. People try and shame me. They say, how dare you shame me? I'm going to shame you because you're in a good financial position and you have the ability to do that. Well, I have the position that I have because I worked and I saved and I invested. So if you want to hate on me, that's a weird thing to do. I first off. Secondarily, I'm not hating on you. I'm just trying to encourage you to stand up for yourself. And I understand, if you're a young actor, exactly as Marc was saying, it's a career ender. So I get it. And I understand that that may not be a sacrifice everyone is capable or willing to make. But there are things that are more important than short-term accolades. And I don't think that you will feel as good as you think you will if you reach that height by selling your soul. Mm-hmm. So I hope that people take that to heart. I hope people really think about it before they make the decision. And if you conclude, if you're a young single parent and you have to sacrifice something to keep your kid alive, I get that. If you're a young single man and you're not willing to sacrifice, I don't have much patience for that. Like, fucking man up. And I hope that this is a moment where, I mean, what we need is courageous action because we have been cowed for so long. And I'm starting to see it. I'm starting to see fire in people's eyes when they talk about this shit. And I'm grateful for it because I felt alone in the first 4 or 5 months of lockdowns. So the longer this persists, I think the brighter that flame will get and the hotter it'll be. And now we just have to direct it towards the actual people that implemented it upon us. So
Yeah. Well put. Any questions? Questions? Yes, sir.
So I work for Vice, and since you guys are against mandates, I want to know, why are you so racist?
We found the Fed. We've got a gentleman here who jokingly says, I work for Vice. Why are we so against the mandates and therefore so racist? Marc.
Well, this is the best position to be in. At least I have hair. You guys are super definitely on the racist spectrum. Yeah. I'm least racist based on hair alone. I have no comments. Thank you for your sarcastic.
Yes.
I think everyone gets it.
Yes. Any other questions before we get out of here?
American History X was a great movie.
Oh, you do.
You know it was a great movie.
You do.
Yeah, I know I do. And it's a great movie. So
It is a good movie.
let's let it go. Okay.
Do you have the tattoo right here?
Not.
No, okay.
You're welcome, Michael Malloy.
Yes. Thank you guys so much. Thank you so much, Peddling Fiction Podcast, for putting this on. Johnny Profita. Again, we're not alone, and there's a lot more of us than just this. Take this just as a thought. I am stealing this from Tom Woods, who said this last weekend. They took the dislike button from YouTube. Think about why that happened. It's not because of our videos. It's because of the regime videos. We're getting so largely disliked that YouTube got together, got a message from whoever, and took the dislike function off. So the emperor has no clothes moment is being spread far and wide now. It's not just weirdos like us. So thank you, guys. I'm Buck Johnson, Clint Russell, Marc, Clair. This has been Counterflow, and be sure to listen. This will be out in like a month. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Brought the fire out of me, Bucko.
Yes, I did. Love it. I hope you guys enjoyed that live conversation in Sayulita, Mexico, with Clint Russell of Liberty Lockdown and Marc Clair of the Lions of Liberty. What a fun conversation. I hope it kind of bled through into your ears, the kind of mood that was set there. Lots of good times to be had in Sayulita, Mexico at these Liberty events like the Sayulita Super Spreader. And again, next year, I believe Johnny from Peddling Fiction wants to put another one on. I highly recommend attending, and I hope that you guys could kind of feel the fun we were having there. As for this show, you know what to do. Go to iTunes, leave a rating and review, if you will. If you'd like to donate anything, I do have a Patreon page at patreon.com/counterflow. As little as $1 a month helps out, or as much as, I don't know, a Bitcoin a month. You want to do that? I'm down to take it. Every penny that goes into that goes right to this show. I'm not going out and having fancy dinners with the money that you guys donate. It all goes back into the production of this show. And let's see, YouTube page. I apologize. There was no video for this one, but usually there's always video. And so go find us, hit subscribe to the YouTube page, and counterflowpodcast.com. There you go, counterflowpodcast.com. Follow me on Twitter at BuckRebel, and hope you guys are doing well. Talk to you soon.
You get split in fucking half, but I call him the hologram brass. But I am the center inside the placenta of math. You clash with cyanide gas and die fast. Rhythmical equivalent of solids, liquid and gas. We smash your sinus with the power of Lord Titus. But I am the virus inside of the iris of Cyrus.
Like the sound of the Counterflow podcast? Our audio production is provided by Podsworth Media. Check them out at podsworth.com.
This has been the Counterflow Podcast, a part of the Renegade Media Network.